There is a myth in our culture that tells us that you can only speak English like a native speaker if you go to live in an English-speaking country, preferably since a very early age. But I don't think that is right. In my own experience, I haven't lived in an English-speaking country, and I didn't go there when I was a young child. I've learned my English in my own country, which is a Slavic country, Ukraine, in Eastern Europe. I think one important thing that I do that many learners don't do is I speak to myself out loud. I don't just mean in my mind silently in my inner voice, but I'm quite deliberate about this. I actually speak out loud. The reason I'm emphasizing this so much is because I think many learners miss this point. They think that speaking into their mind is just enough. And I think there are so many opportunities during the day to actually speak out loud when you're at home, when you're on your own and nobody can hear you, and you can be playful and you can experiment and have fun with your own voice. A concern that has to do with it that I often hear is, where do I get my questions for speaking out loud? And that's where Cambridge exams come in handy. There are speaking parts in exams like FCE, CAE, CPE, IELTS, you name it. So you basically purchase any exam book or you go to any of those free exam questions websites, and that's where you get your questions. You start out your day by talking about the weather. So you wake up and you start talking about the weather. It's as simple as it sounds. Next thing I love to do is think of my reading and listening materials as interactions. When I listen to something or I read something, it's my responsibility to respond. I don't want to be that passive reader or listener who just sits down and passively gets programmed and fed with all that information. I want to be a critical thinker. If you're listening to someone, your mind will get subconsciously programmed with that speaker's intonation, with their accent. So if you're listening to a native speaker specifically, your mirror neurons will be at work. Have you guys heard about mirror neurons? Mirror neurons, according to neurologists, is that structure in our brain that gets lit on a neurobrain scan when we're learning something, when we're copying someone. So scientists have this hypothesis that mirror neurons take an active part in us learning something by copying, by imitating someone. And you can take this on board as a language learner. Allow your mirror neurons tap into the learning process and help you learn that language when you speak out loud imitating the speaker. Do I practice with native speakers directly? Not much. There are webinars I attend where people have conversations with native speakers, such as one with Rupert Spira, a spiritual teacher who teaches the non-dual direct path. And I find those webinars highly enlightening, not just in the spiritual sense, because this webinar contains real live interactions between people, many of whom are native speakers. But I don't think it's necessary to actually have a native speaker in front of you in order to practice. I think many people use that as an excuse. Oh, I don't have anybody to practice with, therefore I won't practice at all. I don't think that's the way to go. I think you can find opportunities to practice in your everyday life. For that, watch my video, How to Integrate More English into Your Daily Routine. Having said that, I think there is one thing where natives are indispensable, and that's when you're programming your mind with high-quality English. Remember I mentioned those mirror neurons? Use native speakers to inform your thinking patterns. Shadowing is an especially great technique. Shadowing is basically a variation of a very well-known listen and repeat activity. You play your favorite podcast or your favorite speaker, and then you pause after every sentence and you repeat what they have just said. Some of my students have found that shadowing Peppa Pig and children's cartoons is especially great because their sentences come in distinct chunks. You can hear the beginning of a sentence and the end of a sentence very clearly. That makes it very easy to pause and repeat after the speaker. In addition, when you spend a long time listening to English, coming from a native speaker, your mind will get inspired by that. And in time, you will notice that that native speaker starts chatting in your mind, which is fun. And you will learn to substitute your own voice with that native speaker's voice on demand. So here's what you do. You pick your favorite language model, And then you listen to that person all the time. It could be Joe Rogan, it could be Rupert Spira, Tony Robbins, Lucy from English with Lucy. So you let that voice seep into your mind, and then you see if you can substitute your own voice with that person's voice. And when you will be speaking, you will be feeling English as if coming through their mouth, with their intonation, with their specific speaking patterns, and that will let you know whether what you're saying is right or wrong. So you can use that person as an internal checker. Now, here is one thing that many learners shun, and that is exaggeration. When we're learning an accent specifically, when we want to reduce our native accent and adopt an English accent, at first we have to exaggerate. It's okay, because the phonetic system of English is different from your language, especially if your language is very far away linguistically, phonetically, such as Russian, my first language, and English. They belong to different groups and they make use of different phonemic systems. So what you want to do when you're learning this is you need to exaggerate, trusting that there will come a moment in time when your voice will be found. But in order for you to do that, you need to exaggerate the sounds first. And it's okay. Don't let anybody tell you, oh, you're just trying too hard. Of course you're trying too hard, because you're learning. You want to achieve something. It's okay to let your friends know that you are just practicing your English pronunciation, for example, if you want to do that. But don't let anybody discourage you by telling you, you're trying too hard. So that would be it from me. I'm Lilia from Inktelligent, and you can become my private student by writing me an email using the email address found in the description box down below. Thank you so much for being with me and watching my channel, and I look forward to seeing you again in a couple of days' time. Bye bye for now.